The rain hammered against my windshield as I pulled into the driveway of the house I had been paying for. 7 years of mortgage payments. 7 years of believing I was helping my daughter build a better future. 7 years of lies. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I stared at the front door. The same door I had painted 3 summers ago. The same door I walk through every month to hand over another check. But today something felt different. Today I had come home early from my business trip, and what I was about to discover would shatter everything I thought I knew about family. I grabbed my briefcase and stepped out into the pouring rain. The key felt cold in my hand as I approached the door. I slid it into the lock and turned. Nothing. I tried again, thinking maybe the rain had made my hands slippery. Still nothing. My heart began to race. I checked the key again. This was definitely the right one. The same key I had used for 7 years. Then I saw it. Brand new lock. Shiny and silver where the old brass one used to be. My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone and called my daughter Jessica. Rang once. 3 times. Then it went to voicemail. Called again. Same thing. On the 3rd attempt she finally answered. Her voice was cold. Distant. Not the warm tone I was used to hearing. Jessica, honey, the lock is different. Did something happen? Did you lose your keys? I tried to keep my voice calm even though panic was rising in my chest. There was a long pause. Too long. Then she spoke and her words cut through me like ice. Change the locks, Mom. You do not live here anymore. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping my phone in the puddle forming at my feet. What do you mean I do not live here? Jessica, this is a misunderstanding, right? She laughed. Actually laughed. A bitter sound that made my blood run cold. No misunderstanding, Mom. This is my house. You have been making gifts to me. Voluntary gifts. You have no claim here. My lawyer says so. My lawyer. The words echoed in my head. When did my daughter get a lawyer? And why? I stood there in the rain, completely frozen as water soaked through my jacket. Jessica, I have been paying your mortgage for 7 years. Every single month. $1,400. That is over $100,000. Like I said, Mom. You never asked me to pay you back. You never made me sign anything. Those were gifts from a mother to her daughter. Now I need you to leave my property before I call the police. The line went dead. I do not know how long I stood there in that driveway. The rain pelted down, soaking me to the bone, but I could not move. Could not think. Could not process what had just happened. My daughter. My only child. The little girl I had raised alone after her father left us. The girl I had worked 3 jobs to put through college. The woman I had sacrificed everything for. She had just thrown me out like garbage. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jessica. I have boxed up your things. They will be on the curb tomorrow at noon. Do not come to the door. I wanted to scream. Cry. To bang on that door until my knuckles bled. But something inside me went very still. Very cold. Very calculating. I was a senior accountant. I had spent 30 years managing money and keeping records. And I had kept every single receipt. Every bank statement. Every text message. Every email about this house. I got back in my car, turned on the heat, and sat there shivering. Not from the cold but from rage. Pure undiluted rage. As the windows fogged up around me, I pulled out my phone and started scrolling. Scrolling through 7 years of messages. 7 years of proof. There it was. The very first message from Jessica. Mom, I found the perfect house, but I cannot afford the down payment. Can you help? I will pay you back, I promise. And my response. Course, honey. How much do you need? $40,000, Mom. I know it is a lot, but this house is perfect. 3 bedrooms. Big backyard. Close to my work. I will pay you back every cent. I scrolled further. More messages. Mom, can you cover the mortgage this month? I am a little short. Mom, the roof needs repairs, can you help? Mom, the furnace broke. Mom, the property taxes are due. Every single time I said yes. Every single time I believed her promises to pay me back. But the most important messages came later. The ones where I started asking questions. Jessica, honey, when are you going to start paying me back? I sent that message 8 months ago. Her response. So mom. Promise. Things are just tight right now. Another message from 6 months ago. Jessica, I have been helping you for almost 7 years now. Can we set up a payment plan? Her response. Mom, why are you being like this? Family helps family. Are you really going to nickel and dime your own daughter? And then 3 months ago, the message that should have been my warning. Jessica, I saw a for sale sign 2 houses down from yours. Are you thinking about selling? Because if you are, I need to talk to you about my investment in your house. Her response made my hands shake as I read it again. My house, Mom. Not yours. And no, I am not selling. Stop worrying. But she was lying. I kept scrolling until I found what I was looking for. A screenshot I had taken by accident 2 months ago when I borrowed her phone to look up a restaurant. She had left her email open and I saw it. A message to a real estate agent. I am ready to list the property. I am thinking we can get at least $600,000 for it in this market. $600,000. For a house I had paid for. A house where I had contributed the down payment. A house where I had paid the mortgage every month for 7 years. A house where I had paid for a new roof, new furnace, new windows, and countless other repairs. My vision blurred with tears, but I blinked them away. Well, I would not cry. Not yet. First I would fight. I started the car and drove. I did not know where I was going until I pulled up in front of a small office building downtown. Morrison and Associates. Attorneys at law. I had done their taxes for the past 5 years. They were good people. Fair people. And right now I needed someone fair on my side. The receptionist looked startled when I walked in dripping wet and probably looking half insane. I need to see David Morrison. It is an emergency. He does not usually take walk-ins, but let me check. She picked up the phone and spoke quietly. Then she nodded at me. He will see you. 3rd door on the left. David Morrison was a tall man in his 50s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He took one look at me and immediately got me a towel and a cup of hot coffee. Sit down. Tell me what happened. So I did. I told him everything. The 7 years of payments. The promises to pay me back. Changed locks. The threat to call the police. And most importantly, the messages. All the proof I had saved without even realizing I was building a case. David listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and studied me. Do you want to sue your daughter? The question hung in the air. Did I? This was my child. My baby. The little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager who told me I was her hero. The young woman who promised she would take care of me when I got old. But that person was gone. Maybe she had never existed. Maybe I had been blind to who she really was. User. A manipulator. Someone who saw her own mother as nothing more than a source of money. The word came out stronger than I expected. Yes, I want to sue her. I want every penny back. I want her to face what she has done. David nodded slowly. Then we need to move fast. If she is planning to sell that house, we need to file an injunction to stop the sale. We need to establish your claim to the property. And we need to do it before she finds a buyer. How long will this take? Yes. Month. Maybe longer. These cases are complicated, especially when it involves family. But you have something most people in your situation do not have. Documentation. You have kept records of everything. That is going to be your greatest weapon. Over the next week I barely slept. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. Bank statements showing the wire transfers. Cancelled checks from before I started using electronic payments. Credit card statements showing purchases I made for the house. Text messages. Emails. Even photos I had taken during the renovations showing me actually doing the work. I had painted the entire interior myself. I had helped install the new windows. I had spent a whole summer refinishing the hardwood floors. All while Jessica was at work or out with friends. All while believing I was investing in our future. In a house that would one day be truly ours. David filed the paperwork on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning, Jessica had received the court summons. She called me 17 times that day. I did not answer. She sent text after text. Mom, what are you doing? Mom, this is insane. Mom, you are ruining everything. Mom, please call me, we can work this out. But the one that hurt the most simply said, I cannot believe you are doing this to me. After everything I have done for you. Everything she had done for me. The words would have been funny if they were not so painful. What had she done for me? Let me pay her bills. Let me work overtime so she could live comfortably. Let me sacrifice my retirement savings so she could have a beautiful home. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Matthews. Smooth female voice asked. Who is this? My name is Rebecca Chin. I am your daughter's attorney. I think we should talk before this situation gets out of hand. I am listening. Look, Mrs. Matthews, I understand you are upset. But these payments you made were clearly gifts. You never established a loan agreement. You never asked for repayment in writing. Legally, you have no claim to the property. I pulled out the folder David had prepared for me. Actually, Ms. Chan, I have multiple text messages where Jessica specifically promised to pay me back. I have messages where she acknowledged these were loans, not gifts. And I have documentation of my substantial financial contributions, including improvements I personally made to the property. There was a pause. Mrs. Matthews, even if that is true, do you really want to drag your daughter through court? Think about your relationship. Think about your future together. My daughter changed the locks on me, Ms. Chen. She told me I do not live there anymore. She threatened to call the police if I came back. I think she destroyed our relationship all by herself. Another pause. Then her voice turned hard. We will fight this. And family court judges do not look kindly on parents who sue their children over money. Then I guess we will find out, won't we? I hung up before she could respond. That night I sat in my tiny apartment. After Jessica kicked me out, I had been staying with my friend Margaret, but I could not impose forever. So I had rented a small one-bedroom place across town. It was a far cry from the house I had been building. The house that was supposed to be my retirement plan. I had worked so hard my whole life. After Jessica's father left when she was 3, I did everything alone. I worked as a secretary during the day and cleaned offices at night. I saved every penny for her college fund. I gave up dating, gave up hobbies, gave up any life of my own so she could have everything she needed. And when she graduated and got her first job, I was so proud. My daughter, the marketing manager. My daughter who could finally support herself. But then came the requests for money. Small at first. 100 here. 200 there. I never minded because that is what mothers do. We help our children. But it grew. And grew. Until I was paying for her entire life while barely scraping by myself. I cashed in my retirement fund for that down payment. I worked until I was 65 because I could not afford to retire. I ignored the chest pains and the exhaustion because Jessica needed me. And this was my reward. Locked out. Discarded. Threatened with police action for trying to enter a house I had paid for. My phone buzzed. Another text from Jessica. Mom, please. You are embarrassing yourself. Everyone thinks you have lost your mind. Just drop the lawsuit and we can forget this ever happened. I typed back before I could stop myself. Well, her response came immediately. Fine. If you want to play it this way, we will play. But do not say I did not warn you. You are going to lose everything. I put the phone down and opened my laptop. David had sent me the court date. 6 weeks away. 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to gather more evidence. 6 weeks to build an unbreakable case. But that night as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I let myself feel it. The grief. The betrayal. The overwhelming sadness that my own daughter could do this to me. I cried for the first time since this started. Deep racking sobs that shook my whole body. When I finally stopped, the sun was beginning to rise. I got up, washed my face and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red and swollen. My hair was a mess. I looked 10 years older than I had a month ago. But underneath the exhaustion I saw something else. Determination. Strength. A fire that had been dormant for too long. Jessica thought she could use me and throw me away. She thought I would back down like I always had. She thought I was weak. She was about to find out how wrong she was. The next morning I met with David to go over our strategy. We sat in his conference room with documents spread across the entire table. Bank statements, text messages printed out and organized by date, photos, receipts, even a recording I had made on my phone during one conversation where Jessica explicitly said she would pay me back once she got her Christmas bonus. This is good, David said, studying everything. This is really good. We can establish that these were loans, not gifts. We can prove your financial contributions. And most importantly, we can show that she made explicit promises of repayment which she then deliberately broke. What about the property improvements? Yes. I must have put in $40,000 worth of work myself. We will need to prove that. Do you have any witnesses? Anyone who saw you doing the work? Thought about it. Margaret had helped me paint a few rooms. My neighbor Tom had helped me carry the new water heater into the basement. Jessica's ex-boyfriend Derek had been there when I spent 2 weeks retiling the bathroom. I have witnesses. David made notes. We will need sworn statements from all of them. The more people who can testify to your contributions, the stronger our case. What are my chances? I asked the question I had been afraid to ask. David looked at me seriously. Honestly, this is going to be hard. Family court judges are unpredictable. Some will see your side. Some will say you were just being a mother and that is what mothers do. But with the evidence you have, I would say we have a 60% chance of winning at least a substantial portion of your claim. 60%. Not great odds, but better than nothing. There is something else. David continued. Jessica's attorney is good. Rebecca Chen has won a lot of family cases. She is going to paint you as a controlling mother who used money to manipulate her daughter. She's going to say you gave these gifts freely and now you are trying to extort Jessica because you two had a falling out. Let her try. Said. I have the truth on my side. The truth does not always win in court. But we will do our best. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into preparing for the trial. I met with witnesses. I organized documents. I created a timeline of every payment, every promise, every contribution I had made to that house. But I also had to deal with the fallout. Jessica had told everyone her version of the story. That I was a bitter, vindictive mother trying to steal her house. That I had given her gifts and was now demanding repayment. That I was mentally unstable and needed help. Friends stopped calling. People I had known for years suddenly crossed the street when they saw me coming. I went to church one Sunday and could feel the stares and whispers following me. Only Margaret stood by me. She came to my apartment every evening with dinner and listened while I vented. She never judged. Never told me to give up. She just supported me. You are doing the right thing. She said one night as we ate Chinese takeout on my couch. What Jessica did was wrong. She used you. She lied to you. And now she is trying to make you the villain. Do not let her. No. But sometimes I wonder if I should just drop it. Walk away. Is the money really worth losing my daughter? Margaret grabbed my hand. Honey, you already lost your daughter. The girl you raised would never have done this to you. This person. This is not your Jessica. This is someone who sees you as nothing but a wallet. And you deserve better. She was right. I knew she was right. But that did not make it hurt any less. 2 weeks before the trial, I got an email from Rebecca Chen. A settlement offer. Jessica would pay me $75,000 and I would sign away any claim to the house. No trial. No public scandal. Just money and silence. I stared at the number. 75,000. It was a fraction of what I had contributed, but it was still a substantial amount. Enough to rebuild my retirement fund. Enough to start over. Called David. What do you think? It is not enough. He said immediately. Based on what you have put into that house, you are entitled to at least 1/3 of the equity. That house is worth $600,000. Your share would be $200,000. But if we go to trial, we might lose everything. We might. Or we might win big. This is your decision. But I think they are offering this because they know we have a strong case. They are scared. I thought about it for a long time. Then I made my decision. No settlement. We go to trial. Are you sure? I'm sure. The night before the trial I could not sleep. I lay in bed running through everything in my mind. What I would say. How I would act. Whether the judge would believe me. 3 in the morning I gave up trying to sleep. I got up, made coffee, and sat at my small kitchen table with a pen and paper. I started writing. Not notes for the trial but a letter. A letter to the daughter I thought I had. Dear Jessica, I wrote. I do not know when you stopped loving me. Maybe you never did. Maybe I was always just useful to you. A source of money and support that you could tap whenever you needed. But I loved you. I loved you with everything I had. I gave you my whole life. And you threw me away like I was nothing. Tomorrow we will face each other in court and I will fight for what I am owed. Not because I want revenge but because I need to survive. Because I gave you everything and left nothing for myself. Because I believed your promises and your lies. I do not expect you to understand. I do not expect you to care. But I need you to know that I did love you. Even now after everything some part of me still does. And that is the saddest thing of all. I folded the letter and put it in my purse. I would never send it but writing it helped. It reminded me why I was doing this. Not for revenge. For survival. The courtroom was cold and impersonal. Harsh fluorescent lights reflected off the polished wooden benches. I sat next to David trying to keep my hands from shaking. Across the aisle Jessica sat with Rebecca Chen. She would not look at me. Just stared straight ahead, her face blank. She looked different. Her hair was shorter. She wore an expensive suit that I had probably paid for. She looked like a stranger. The bailiff called the court to order. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams. The judge was a woman in her 60s with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked stern and serious as she took her seat and reviewed the case file. This is a dispute between a mother and daughter regarding financial contributions to a property. Judge Williams said, I have reviewed the initial filings from both sides. We will hear the plaintiff's case first. Mr. Morrison. David stood and began presenting our case. He walked through the timeline methodically. The initial down payment of $40,000. The 7 years of mortgage payments totaling $117,000. The additional costs for repairs and improvements. All supported by bank statements and receipts. Then he showed the text messages. Each one appeared on the screen for the judge to read. Jessica promising to pay me back. Jessica asking for more money. Jessica acknowledging these were loans, not gifts. Furthermore, Your Honor, David continued. The plaintiff personally performed substantial labor on the property. She painted the interior. She assisted with window installation. She refinished the hardwood floors. We have multiple witnesses who will testify to this. He called Margaret to the stand first. She testified that she had helped me paint 3 bedrooms and had seen me working on the house countless times. How would you describe Mrs. Matthews' relationship with her daughter at that time? David asked. Margaret looked directly at the judge. She adored Jessica. Everything she did was for her daughter. She worked herself to exhaustion to help Jessica have a nice home. I never once heard her ask for anything in return except that Jessica be happy. Next came Tom, my former neighbor. He testified that he had seen me replacing the roof shingles on a particularly hot summer day. Did Jessica help with any of this work? David asked. Tom shook his head. Never saw her lift a finger. She would come home from work and go inside while her mother was still up on that roof. Then came Derek, Jessica's ex-boyfriend. He looked uncomfortable being there, but he told the truth. She talked about it all the time. He said. How her mom was paying for everything. How she just had to ask and her mom would write a check. I told her it was not right, but she said her mom owed her for being a single parent. My heart broke hearing that. Is that really what she thought? That I owed her for raising her? Rebecca Chen cross-examined each witness, trying to poke holes in their testimony. But they held firm. The truth was the truth. Finally it was my turn to testify. I walked to the stand on shaking legs and placed my hand on the Bible. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. David asked me to explain the financial arrangement. I took a deep breath and began. When Jessica found the house, she called me so excited. She said she found her dream home, but she could not afford the down payment. She asked if I could loan her the money. I emphasized the word loan. She promised she would pay me back as soon as she could. So I cashed in my retirement fund and gave her $40,000. And the mortgage payments. Every month for 7 years I paid the mortgage. $1,400. Jessica said she was struggling to make ends meet and asked if I could help temporarily. I said yes, because that is what mothers do. We help our children. But she kept saying temporarily. She kept saying she would take over payments soon. Just never happened. David showed me one of the text messages. Can you read this for the court? I looked at the screen. It was from year 3. Mom, thank you so much for covering the mortgage again. I promise once I get my promotion I will start paying you back. I will make this right. And did she ever make it right? David asked. Well, she got the promotion. Her salary increased. But the requests for money continued. In fact, they got bigger. Can you describe how you found out she was planning to sell the house? My voice cracked, but I kept going. I borrowed her phone to look up a restaurant. Her email was open. I saw a message to a real estate agent. She was planning to sell for $600,000. She never mentioned paying me back. Never mentioned my investment. In her mind, it was entirely her house. And then what happened? I tried to talk to her about it. I said we needed to discuss my investment if she was going to sell. She got angry. A month later I came home from a business trip and my key did not work. She had changed the locks. She told me I did not live there anymore and that all my payments had been gifts. She threatened to call the police if I came back. The courtroom was silent. Judge Williams was watching me closely. Rebecca Chen stood for cross-examination. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Mrs. Matthews, you say these were loans. But you never created a loan agreement, did you? Well, she is my daughter. I trusted her. You never asked her to sign a promissory note. Well, you never established an interest rate or payment schedule. Well, it was not meant to be a formal arrangement. It was meant to be a mother helping her daughter with the understanding that she would be paid back. But those are your words. Your understanding. Did Jessica ever explicitly say she was taking out a loan from you? She said she would pay me back. Multiple times. Saying you will pay someone back for a gift is just polite, Mrs. Matthews. It does not create a legal obligation. It was not a gift. I was clear that I expected repayment. Were you? Rebecca pulled out her own documents. I have text messages here where Jessica thanks you for your generosity. Where she calls you the best mom ever. Where she says she appreciates everything you do for her. These sound like thank you messages for gifts, not acknowledgments of debt. She was thanking me while also promising repayment. Both can be true. Can they? Or were you giving your daughter money because you wanted to? Because that is what mothers do. And now you are having regrets. I fought to keep my voice steady. I gave my daughter money because I believed in her promises. I believed we were building something together. I believed that when I got older and could not work anymore I would have a place to live. A home I had invested in. Instead she threw me out and told me I had no claim to anything. Rebecca pressed harder. Is it not true, Mrs. Matthews, that you and your daughter had arguments? That you tried to control her life? Well, is it not true that you showed up unannounced at her house frequently? Had a key. She gave me a key. I thought I was welcome. Is it not true that you criticized her boyfriend? Her job choices? Her spending habits? I offered advice when asked. That is not control. The questions continued, each one designed to paint me as an overbearing mother who used money as a weapon. But I held firm. I knew the truth. Finally Rebecca sat down. David did redirect, asking me about specific text messages that showed Jessica explicitly promising repayment. By the time I stepped down I was exhausted. Then Jessica took the stand. She looked small and vulnerable as she placed her hand on the Bible. Rebecca asked her to explain her side. My mother was always very involved in my life. Jessica said softly. Sometimes too involved. When I bought the house, she offered to help with the down payment. I said I would pay her back someday, but I thought she understood that was just something people say. I never thought she actually expected repayment. But you sent multiple text messages promising to pay her back, David pointed out during cross-examination. Jessica shrugged. I was being polite. I was grateful for her help. But I never thought she was keeping track of every dollar. You told her the payments were temporary loans. I do not remember saying that. We have text messages. Then maybe I said it to make her feel better. But I never entered into a loan agreement. She gave me money freely. What about when you changed the locks? Jessica's expression hardened. My mother was becoming unstable. She was showing up at odd hours. She was demanding to know my financial situation. She was treating my house like it was hers. I needed boundaries. So you locked her out. I protected myself. The trial continued for 2 more days. More witnesses. More documents. More arguments. By the end, I could barely remember what day it was. Judge Williams took a week to deliberate. 7 days of waiting. 7 days of barely eating or sleeping. 7 days of wondering if I had made a horrible mistake. Finally the call came. The judge was ready with her ruling. We assembled in the courtroom once again. Jessica still would not look at me. I tried to catch her eye to see if there was any trace of the daughter I had loved, but she kept her gaze fixed on the table. Judge Williams entered and we all stood. When she sat down, she looked at both of us with an expression I could not read. I have reviewed all the evidence and testimony carefully. She began. This is a complicated case involving family relationships, money, and conflicting understandings of what was agreed upon. However, the law is clear. When someone provides substantial financial contributions with an expectation of repayment, those contributions cannot simply be dismissed as gifts without clear evidence that both parties understood them to be gifts. My heart began to pound. In this case, the text messages clearly show that the defendant repeatedly promised repayment. Whether or not a formal loan agreement existed, the defendant created a reasonable expectation that these were not gifts. Furthermore, the plaintiff made substantial improvements to the property with her own labor. This creates what is called a constructive trust. Jessica shifted in her seat, looking nervous for the first time. Therefore, I rule in favor of the plaintiff. Based on the total contributions of $117,000 in mortgage payments, $40,000 for the down payment, and approximately $30,000 in improvements and labor, I calculate that the plaintiff has a claim to 35% equity in the property. 35%. The words echoed in my head. That was more than $200,000. The property must be sold within 90 days. Judge Williams continued. The proceeds will be divided accordingly, with 35% going to the plaintiff after deducting the outstanding mortgage balance. The defendant will also pay the plaintiff's legal fees. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. I sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. I won. Actually won. David squeezed my shoulder. We did it. Across the aisle, Rebecca was speaking urgently to Jessica, who had gone pale. She stood abruptly, and for the first time since the trial began, she looked directly at me. The hatred in her eyes was like a physical blow. You just destroyed me. She hissed. Are you happy now? Before I could respond, she stormed out of the courtroom. Rebecca followed, shooting me an angry glare. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. But all I felt was empty. That night Margaret came over with champagne. We need to celebrate, she said, popping the cork. I do not feel like celebrating. Brooklyn, you won. You got justice. You proved you were right. No. But I lost my daughter in the process. Margaret poured 2 glasses and handed me one. Honey, you lost your daughter when she changed those locks. This trial just made it official. At least now you will have some financial security. You can rebuild your life. She was right. The settlement would give me about $210,000 after legal fees. Enough to buy a small condo. Enough to rebuild my retirement fund. Enough to start over. Over the next 3 months, the house went up for sale. Jessica cooperated minimally, communicating only through her lawyer. The house sold quickly for $580,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage and fees, my share came to $212,000. The check arrived on a Tuesday. I stared at it for a long time before depositing it. This piece of paper represented 7 years of my life. 7 years of sacrifice and betrayal. 7 years of believing I was investing in a relationship that never truly existed. I bought a small 2-bedroom condo near the lake. It was mine. Truly mine. No one could take it from me. I also started therapy. I needed to understand how I had let this happen. How I had missed all the warning signs. How I had raised a daughter who could use me so callously. The therapist helped me see that I had confused love with sacrifice. That I had taught Jessica she could take without giving. That I had enabled her behavior by never setting boundaries. It was a hard truth to accept. 1 year after the trial, I was sitting on my small balcony watching the sunset when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer. Hello, Mom. My heart stopped. Jessica. There was a long pause filled with the weight of everything unsaid. I just wanted you to know. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. I bought a new place. Muller. I'm starting over too. That is good. I said carefully. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. About what happened. I waited. I was wrong. The words came out in a rush. I was so wrong, Mom. I used you. I lied to you. I convinced myself that I deserved your money because you were my mother, and that is what mothers do. But that was not fair. That was not love. That was just me being selfish and cruel. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. I do not expect you to forgive me. She continued. I do not even know if I can forgive myself. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I am sorry. I am so sorry. Thank you. I whispered. That means more than you know. Do you think? She hesitated. Do you think someday we could try again? Maybe have coffee or something? I know I do not deserve it, but maybe, said. Someday. When we have both healed. When we can build something real instead of something based on obligation and guilt. I would like that. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing deep. Just surface things. The weather. Her new apartment. My condo. When we hung up, I sat there for a long time. I did not know if Jessica and I would ever have a real relationship. The damage was deep. The trust was shattered. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something like hope. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. That love without boundaries is not love at all. That giving until you have nothing left does not make you a good person. Just makes you empty. And I was done being empty. I had fought for myself. I had stood up to the person I loved most in the world. I had demanded justice even when it hurt. Even when it meant losing everything. And in the end, I had gained something far more valuable than money. I had gained myself back. 2 years later, I am sitting in that same spot on my balcony. The sunset is painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My small condo is filled with things I chose. Furniture I picked out. Art I actually like. A life that is completely mine. Jessica and I meet for coffee once a month now. It is not the relationship I once dreamed of, but it is honest. Real. We do not talk about the trial or the money. We talk about her therapy, about my retirement plans, about building something new from the ashes of what we destroyed. She is paying back some of the money. Not because she has to legally, but because she wants to. $50 a month. It will take decades to repay what she took, but that is not the point. The point is she is trying. And that is enough. Some days I still feel angry. Some days I grieve for the years I lost and the daughter I thought I had. But most days I feel grateful. Grateful that I found my strength. Grateful that I fought back. Grateful that I survived. My story is not a happy ending. It is a real ending. Messy and complicated and painful. But it is mine. And no one can ever take that away from me. The phone call from Margaret comes on a Wednesday afternoon 3 years after the trial. I am organizing my tax documents when her voice fills my ear with barely contained excitement. Brooklyn, you are never going to believe this. Jessica is getting married. I set down the folder in my hand and walked to the window. The lake stretches out before me, calm and endless. Getting married. To who? His name is Michael. Apparently he is a teacher. They met at some charity event. Margaret pauses. She wants you to come to the wedding. My breath catches. She does. She called me to ask how to reach out to you. She is nervous. Scared you will say no. I think about the monthly coffee meetings. The slow rebuilding of something fragile between us. The awkward conversations that sometimes bloom into genuine connection. In 3 years we have come far, but we still tiptoe around the deepest wounds. Tell her to call me herself. Say finally. That evening my phone rings. Jessica's name lights up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. Mom. Her voice is soft, uncertain. Margaret told me. Congratulations. Thank you. There is a pause filled with all the things we still do not say. Mom, I know this is a lot to ask. I know I do not deserve it. But I want you at my wedding. I need you there. Why? The question comes out before I can stop it. Because you are my mother. Because despite everything I still love you. Because I want you to meet Michael and see that I am trying to be better. That I am building a life based on honesty this time. I close my eyes and breathe. When is it? June 15th. Small ceremony. Just close friends and family. Michael's parents will be there and I want him to meet you properly. I will think about it. That is all I ask. He hesitates. I really am different now. I know you probably do not believe that, but it is true. After we hang up I sit with a question. Do I believe her? Can people really change? More importantly, do I want to risk opening myself up to more hurt? I call my therapist and we talk it through. She asks me what I am afraid of. That she will disappoint me again. That this is just another manipulation. That I will let my guard down and she will take advantage. And what if none of that happens? What if she really has changed? I do not have an answer. The wedding invitation arrives in the mail 2 weeks later. Cream-colored cardstock with elegant script. Jessica Marie Thompson and Michael James Carter request the honor of your presence. I run my fingers over the embossed letters and remember another invitation from years ago. The housewarming party for the home I had paid for. The home where I was not even listed as an owner. But this is different. This invitation includes a handwritten note. Mom, I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But it would mean the world to me if you came. I want to show you who I am becoming. Love, Jessica. Love. She signed it with love. RSVPs. The months leading up to the wedding are strange. Jessica calls more often. We extend our coffee meetings to lunch. She tells me about Michael, about how they met at a volunteer event where she was helping build homes for low-income families. I am trying to give back. She says. To do something good with my life instead of just taking. She tells me about the therapy she has been in for 2 years. About confronting the entitled mindset she grew up with. About learning to value relationships over money. I want to believe her. Some days I do. Other days I remember the cold hatred in her eyes when the judge ruled against her. One afternoon 6 weeks before the wedding, Jessica asks if I want to go wedding dress shopping with her. The request catches me off guard. Really? You want me there? Few are willing. I know it is a lot to ask. We meet at a bridal boutique downtown. It feels surreal walking in with my daughter trying on wedding dresses as if we are a normal mother and daughter. As if the last few years never happened. Jessica tries on dress after dress. Each one beautiful but not quite right. Then she steps out in a simple lace gown with cap sleeves and a flowing skirt. She looks radiant. What do you think, Mom? I feel tears prick my eyes. You look beautiful. She turns to look at herself in the mirror and I see her own eyes grow wet. I wish things had been different. She says softly. I wish I had been different. We are here now. Say. That is what matters. She buys the dress and we go to lunch afterward. Over salad she tells me more about Michael. He knows everything, Mom. About what I did to you. About the trial. About all of it. I was terrified to tell him, but he said everyone deserves a chance to change. He sounds like a good man. He is. She looks down at her plate. He makes me want to be good too. Better than I was. The wedding day arrives with perfect blue skies. I wear a soft blue dress and pearl earrings. Margaret drives with me to the venue, a small garden overlooking the river. White chairs are arranged in rows and flowers bloom everywhere. Jessica sees me arrive and rushes over. She looks stunning in her dress, her face glowing with happiness. "Mom, you came." She hugs me, and for a moment I let myself relax into it. I would not miss it. She introduces me to Michael. He is tall with kind eyes and an easy smile. He shakes my hand firmly. "Mrs. Thompson, it is an honor to meet you. Jessica has told me so much about you. All good things, I hope." He glances at Jessica with obvious affection. She has told me the truth. And I admire her courage in facing what she did and working to make amends. I like him immediately. The ceremony is simple and beautiful. Jessica and Michael exchange vows they wrote themselves. When Jessica promises to be honest and put their relationship above all else, her eyes find mine in the crowd. Feels like a message. Promise to me too. At the reception, I sit at a table with Margaret and a few other guests. Jessica and Michael make their rounds greeting everyone. When they reach our table, Jessica kneels beside my chair. "Mom, I have something for you." She hands me an envelope. "What is this?" Open it. Inside is a check. For $50,000. I stare at it in shock. "Jessica, what?" "Michael and I talked about it. We sold some stocks he inherited. We want to pay you back. Not everything. Not yet. But it is a start. Real start." My hands shake holding the check. "Jessica, you do not have to do this." "Yes, I do. You need to. Not because of the court case, but because it is right. Because you deserved better than what I gave you. Because I want to prove that I have changed." I look into my daughter's eyes and see something I have not seen in years. Genuine remorse. Real love. The beginnings of the person I always hoped she would become. "Thank you," I whisper. She hugs me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I gave you every reason to." That night, as I drive home with a check in my purse, I feel something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly. Not yet. But the possibility of it. The hope that maybe we really can build something new. Over the next year, Jessica and I grow closer. She and Michael invite me to dinner once a month. We celebrate holidays together. She asks my advice on things and actually listens to my answers. She continues making payments. Some months it is $100. Some months more. She sets up an automatic transfer and sends me a screenshot every time it goes through. "I do not need you to do this." Tell her. "No. But I want to." One evening I am at their apartment for dinner when Jessica brings out a photo album. She flips through pages of old pictures. Jessica as a baby. Jessica's first day of school. Jessica graduating college. "I found these in storage." She says, "I had forgotten how much you did for me. How many sacrifices you made." We look through the pictures together. There I am at every milestone. Birthday parties. School plays. Soccer games. Always there. Always supporting her. "You were a good mom." Jessica says softly. "I just was not a good daughter." "You were a child." I reply. "Children do not owe their parents anything for raising them. That is our job. But I was not a child when I used you. When I took advantage of your love." "Well, you were not." She closes the album. "I'm going to be better. Promise. Not just with you but with everyone. Michael and I are talking about starting a family someday, and I want to be the kind of parent you were. Giving but with boundaries. Loving but not enabling. You will be a wonderful mother. Only because I learned what not to do." 4 years after the trial, Jessica calls me with news. "Mom, I am pregnant." The joy in her voice makes me smile. "That is wonderful, honey." "I'm scared," she admits. "What if I mess this up? What if I am selfish like I was with you?" "You will not be. You have done the work. You have changed. Will you help me?" She asks. "Not with money. Just with advice. With being there." "Course I will." 9 months later I stand in a hospital room holding my grandson for the first time. He is tiny and perfect with a shock of dark hair and Jessica's nose. They named him William after my father. Jessica watches me with tears streaming down her face. "I want him to know his grandmother," she says. "The real you." Not the version I painted when I was angry and selfish. I rock William gently and feel something I have not felt in years. Complete peace. The journey from betrayal to this moment has been long and painful. But somehow we made it. Michael takes a photo of me holding William. This one is going on the wall. He says, "Over the next few years I watched Jessica become a mother. She is patient and kind but also firm. She teaches William about gratitude and respect. She shows him through her actions what it means to value people over things." One afternoon when William is 3, we are at a park watching him play. Jessica turns to me with a serious expression. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "Michael and I have been saving. We have enough now to pay you back the full amount. Everything you put into that house. Everything you lost because of me." She hands me a folder. Inside are bank statements showing transfers into an account in my name. I flip through page after page. The total comes to $197,000. Almost everything I had contributed. "Jessica, it is what I owe you. What I should have given you years ago. I know money cannot fix what I did. I know it cannot erase the pain. But I need you to have it. I need to make this right." I close the folder and look at my daughter. The woman she has become. Seeing the mother she is. Understanding the journey she has traveled. "Thank you." Say. Not just for the money. For fighting to become better. For not giving up on us. He takes my hand. "You could have walked away completely. You could have taken your settlement and never spoken to me again. But you gave me a chance to prove I could change. That is the greatest gift anyone has ever given me." We sit together watching William chase butterflies and I realize something profound. The trial was not the end of our relationship. It was the beginning. The reset button we needed. Before we had a relationship built on obligation and manipulation. Now we have something real, honest, built on choice rather than duty. That night I deposit the check and look at my account balance. Between the original settlement and this repayment, I have more than I started with. Enough to retire comfortably. Enough to travel. Enough to finally live for myself. But the money is not what matters most anymore. 5 years after the trial, I am sitting on my balcony when Jessica calls. "Mom, can you come over? I want to show you something." I drive to their house, a modest 3-bedroom in a good school district. Jessica meets me at the door with William bouncing excitedly beside her. "Grandma, we have a surprise." They lead me to the backyard where Michael is putting finishing touches on a small cottage. It is beautiful with cedar siding and a green roof. "What is this?" Jessica smiles. "It is a guest house. For you. We want you close by. Not because we need your money or your help. But because we want you in our lives. In William's life. We want you to have a place here anytime you want it." I look at the cottage, then back at my daughter. "Jessica. No strings attached, Mom. This is not about obligation. This is about family. Real family." I walk through the cottage. It has a bedroom, a small kitchen, a cozy living room. Everything I would need. But more than that, it has something I never had in the house I paid for. It has a place that is genuinely mine, given freely out of love, not obligation. Except, moving some of my things into the cottage becomes a ritual. Jessica and William help me unpack boxes. We arrange furniture and hang pictures. Michael installs shelves for my books. One evening after William goes to bed, Jessica and I sit on the cottage porch with tea. The stars are coming out and the air is cool. "Mom, do you think you can ever really forgive me?" I consider the question carefully. I think I already have. It happened so gradually I did not notice. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened. It is about choosing not to let it define us anymore. She wipes tears from her eyes. "I do not deserve you. None of us deserve the grace we receive. We just have to choose to accept it and do better." We sit in comfortable silence. This is what healing looks like. Not a dramatic moment of reconciliation, but quiet evenings and second chances. Not perfection, but honest effort. 6 years after the trial, I retire from accounting. Jessica and Michael throw me a party. Friends from work attend. Margaret is there, of course. And my family. My real family. Not the one I was born into, but the one I chose and who chose me back. Jessica gives a speech. My mom taught me the hardest lesson I ever learned. That love without respect is not love at all. That relationships require honesty and reciprocity. That you cannot take and take without eventually destroying what you claim to cherish. She looks directly at me. I failed her in the worst way. But she gave me the chance to become better. And I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of that chance. Everyone claps. I feel overwhelmed by emotion. This journey from betrayal to redemption has been longer and harder than I ever imagined. But somehow it brought us here. To a place of genuine connection. That night alone in my cottage, I pull out the old box I have kept all these years. Inside are documents from the trial. Text messages. The settlement papers. The proof of everything that happened. I have held on to these as a reminder. As protection. As evidence that I was not crazy. That it really happened. But tonight I realize I do not need them anymore. The past is the past. I lived through it. I survived it. I do not need to carry it with me any longer. I take the papers to the fireplace and light them one by one. I watch 7 years of pain and betrayal turn to ash. When the last paper burns, I close my eyes and feel the weight lift from my shoulders. I'm free. 7 years after the trial, William is 10 years old. Jessica and Michael are talking about having another baby. I spend my days gardening, reading, and volunteering at a local literacy program. One Saturday, William asks me to tell him about when I was young. We sit in the cottage and I share stories. Not the painful ones. Not the betrayal and the trial. Just the good memories. The moments of joy and hope. Grandma, were you scared when you had to start over? I was terrified. But sometimes starting over is the bravest thing you can do. Mom says you are the strongest person she knows. Smile. Your mom is pretty strong too. Takes courage to admit when you are wrong and work to fix it. He thinks about this. I want to be strong like you and Mom. Then be honest. Be kind. And when you make mistakes, own them and make them right. Jessica appears in the doorway. Dinner is ready. We walk to the main house together. William runs ahead, but Jessica walks slowly beside me. I am grateful for you every day, Mom. I know I do not say it enough, but I am. I know, honey. Inside the house is filled with warmth and laughter. Michael is setting the table. William is chattering about his day at school. This is my family. Not perfect but real. Built on truth instead of obligation. As we sit down to dinner, I look around the table and feel something I have not felt in a very long time. Complete and total peace. The journey here was brutal. Cost me everything I thought I had. But it gave me something infinitely more valuable. Gave me myself. My dignity. My strength. And eventually it gave me back my daughter. Not the version I tried to mold her into, but the person she chose to become. 8 years after the trial, I am in my cottage writing in my journal when Jessica knocks on the door. She looks nervous. Mom, can I ask you something? Course. She sits across from me, twisting her hands. William asked me about the trial. About what happened between us. He is getting older and he hears things. I want to tell him the truth, but I do not know how. I set down my pen. What do you want to tell him? That I hurt you badly. That I was selfish and cruel. That you had to fight for what was right even though it meant going against me. She looks up with tears in her eyes. But I also want him to know that people can change. That you gave me the chance to become better. Then tell him that. Tell him the truth. All of it. What if he thinks less of me? He might. For a while. But he will also learn that mistakes do not define us. How we handle them does. We sit together in silence. Then Jessica speaks again. Thank you for forgiving me, Mom. I know I will never fully deserve it, but thank you. You do deserve it. You earned it. Through years of hard work and genuine change. That is what forgiveness is. Not a gift given freely, but a bridge built through consistent effort on both sides. She hugs me tightly. I love you, Mom. I love you too. 9 years after the trial, I am diagnosed with a minor heart condition. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to slow me down. Jessica immediately springs into action, making sure I have everything I need. But this time it is different. She does not smother me with guilt-ridden obligation. She helps because she wants to. 'Cause she genuinely cares. Mom, do you need me to come to your doctor appointments? Only if you want to. I want to. She sits with me in waiting rooms. She takes notes during consultations. She picks up my prescriptions. But she also respects my independence. She does not try to take over my life. One evening after a particularly long day at the hospital, she drives me home to the cottage. We sit in the car for a moment before going inside. Mom, I am scared, she admits. Of what? Of losing you. Of not having enough time to make up for what I did. Take her hand. Jessica, you already made up for it. We have had 9 good years. Years built on honesty and love. That is more than enough. Is it though? I wasted so much time being selfish. And you have spent even more time being selfless. You cannot change the past. None of us can. We can only choose who we are going to be moving forward. She wipes her eyes. You are so wise. I am just old. We laugh together and the tension breaks. This is what I fought for. Not the money. Not vindication. Real connection. Honest love. A relationship built on truth. 10 years after the trial, Jessica throws me a surprise party. She has invited everyone who mattered during the darkest time. Margaret, who stood by me when everyone else turned away. David, my lawyer, who fought for me in court. Even Tom and Derek, who testified on my behalf. Everyone gathers in Jessica's backyard. There is a banner that reads, "Thank you for never giving up." I stand in the center of all these people who helped me survive and feel overwhelming gratitude. Jessica gives another speech. 10 years ago, my mom did the hardest thing she ever had to do. She stood up for herself. She demanded justice. She refused to let me continue using her. And in doing so, she gave me the greatest gift. She showed me that real love includes accountability. That boundaries are not punishments but protections. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst behavior. She walks over and hands me a framed photo. It is from the day I held William for the first time. I am looking down at him with such love and joy. This is who you are, Mom. Not the woman I tried to make you. Not the ATM I treated you as. But this. A woman who loves fiercely but also knows her worth. Thank you for teaching me that. Thank you for not giving up on yourself or on me. I hug my daughter and feel the final piece of broken trust snap back into place. We made it. Against all odds, we actually made it. As the party winds down and guests begin to leave, I stand in the garden watching the sunset. Margaret comes to stand beside me. You did good, Brooklyn. She says. You fought when you needed to fight. You forgave when it was time to forgive. You held firm to your boundaries. Not many people have that kind of strength. I learned from the best. Reply. You taught me that I deserved better. No, honey. You taught yourself. I just reminded you. That night I lie in bed in my cottage thinking about the last decade. The betrayal that started it all. The trial that nearly destroyed us. The slow, painful rebuilding. The genuine change. The hard-won forgiveness. If someone had told me 10 years ago that this is where I would end up, I would not have believed them. I thought I had lost my daughter forever. I thought the relationship was irreparably broken. But we proved that wrong. Not through grand gestures or dramatic apologies, but through consistent small acts of love and honesty. Through years of showing up. Through choosing each other again and again. My phone buzzes with a text from Jessica. Thank you for coming tonight, Mom. Thank you for everything. Love you. Text back. I love you too. And I mean it. Completely. Without reservation or fear. Because we earned this love. We built it from the ground up on a foundation of truth instead of obligation. The next morning I wake to knocking on my cottage door. I open it to find William standing there with a handmade card. I made this for you, Grandma. Inside he has drawn a picture of the two of us holding hands. Above it he wrote in careful letters, "You are my hero." Why am I your hero? Yes. Mom told me what happened. How you had to be brave and strong. How you did not give up even when things were really hard. She says you taught her how to be better. I want to be like you when I grow up. I kneel down to his level. You know what makes someone a real hero, William? Not being perfect, Not never making mistakes, but being brave enough to do the right thing even when it is hard. And then being brave enough to forgive when someone truly changes. Did it hurt? When you had to fight with mom. It hurt more than anything. But sometimes love means setting boundaries. It means saying this is not okay. And then it means being willing to rebuild when the other person does the work to change. He hugs me tightly. I'm glad you and mom are friends again. Me too, baby. Me too. As I watch him run back to the house, I realize this is my true victory. Not the settlement money. Not winning the trial. But this. Raising a daughter who learned from her mistakes. Showing a grandson what real strength looks like. Building a family based on honesty. The scars are still there. Some days I remember the shock of that changed lock. The cold voice on the phone telling me I had no home. The hatred in Jessica's eyes across the courtroom. But those memories no longer define me. They are part of my story but not the whole story. The whole story includes the redemption. The rebuilding. The choice to believe in second chances. I sit on my porch with my morning coffee and look at the main house. Smoke curls from the chimney. I can hear laughter through the windows. This family that almost broke apart but chose to heal instead. My phone rings. It is Jessica. Mom, what are you doing today? Just enjoying the morning. Why? Want to go to lunch? Just the two of us. I would love that. We meet at a small cafe downtown. The same place where we had our first awkward coffee meeting years ago when we were both trying to figure out if reconciliation was possible. Now we sit across from each other easily. Comfortably. The way mothers and daughters should. I've been thinking, Jessica says, about writing a book. About what happened between us. About the journey from betrayal to forgiveness. What would you want to say? That it is possible. That even the worst relationships can heal if both people are willing to do the work. That accountability and change are real. Would you want me to be part of it? Only if you are comfortable. But I think our story could help people. Show them that setting boundaries is not cruel. That demanding respect is not selfish. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be used. Think about it. Then I nod. Let us do it. Let us tell the truth. All of it. We spend the afternoon talking about how to frame the story. Not as a tale of revenge but as a journey toward authentic relationship. Not about destroying each other but about building something real from the ruins. When we part ways, Jessica hugs me at my car. Thank you, Mom. For everything. For fighting for yourself. For giving me the chance to be better. For loving me enough to set boundaries. Thank you for doing the work to change. That took real courage. Driving home I feel a sense of completion. The circle closing. We started with betrayal and ended with redemption. We started with a locked door and ended with an open heart. That evening I sit down and begin to write. Not for a book but for myself. I write about the journey. About learning that love and boundaries are not opposites but partners. About discovering that true strength is not in giving everything away but in knowing your worth. I write about the pain of betrayal and the power of accountability. About the long, slow work of rebuilding trust. About choosing forgiveness without forgetting the lessons. And I write about gratitude. For the trial that seemed like an ending but was really a beginning. For the daughter who hurt me but learned to heal. For the family we built from ashes. When I finish writing, the sun is setting. I save the document and title it "My Daughter Changed the Locks." Then I add a subtitle. How Setting Boundaries Saved Us Both. 'Cause that is the truth. When I stood up for myself, I did not just save myself. I saved Jessica too. I saved her from becoming someone who uses people without consequence. I saved her from a life built on manipulation instead of love. And in the process I saved us both. The stars come out one by one. I sit on my porch wrapped in a blanket and feel the cool night air on my face. This life I have built is not perfect. It is not the fantasy I once dreamed of. But it is real. It is honest. It is mine. And that is worth more than anything.